Hello. I think we're live. It looks like we're live. I am going to get some testing done here, a little bit of sound check that might get edited out in the long run. I have a friend here with me, I believe. And so I'm going to ask my friend, Rachel, who's here with me, to give me some feedback. I don't love my background right now. That's okay. I can try to adjust it. I'm wondering, I'm in the home gym. Sound is great. I bet it's even better if I do this. I know the lighting could be brighter, but it's also very relaxing. So I might work on some backlighting. Okay. Sound is good. What I noticed with my live stream workout the other day when I watched it back is it was garbage in terms of the stream quality when I tried to do it from my office of all places, which one would think might have better technology. So is this glitchy at all? Is my next question. Anything about the stream getting hung up, seeming slow? All good. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to hope it stays that way. I am going to do some additional testing, make sure I get things ironed out in terms of using this format, which is a good segue to soon tell you about season 3 and being on YouTube and all the things. So I'm going to sort of do a fresh start and say, welcome to Health and Happiness at Work, the podcast. This is season 3. And full disclosure, YouTube is a completely new format for me in terms of using it in my business. I have been on YouTube in the past in my role as a master trainer with another fitness program I was involved in, but it was a little different how we were set up, how we were running that program. This opportunity to be live and podcast live, I'm very excited about. I am very comfortable public speaking. I have many things I'm passionate about. I've been in my industry a couple of decades now, but in the spirit of vulnerability, which Brene Brown encourages, I don't love being on video. It's something that I have sort of avoided, to be honest, over the years. I've had feedback from other people that, hey, Katie, you should really do more video, more video, more video. You'd be great on video. To which I say, I'm more of a radio audio type of person for a variety of reasons. And maybe in a future episode, I'll get into the why of my triggers, but that's just a good teaching moment, right? We all have triggers and we have choices. We can reduce or avoid the trigger, which in some scenarios might make sense. But in this case, in terms of impact and moving my business forward and connecting with people, I actually need to expose myself to the trigger so that I build some confidence, get more comfortable, exposure therapy, if you will, to get out of my own way, essentially. And I am on video all the time working with my clients. I'll tell you a little bit more about me and my business, but again, when it can be just voice, that's my comfy, happy place. So this is completely new to be podcasting live. It does feel good in some ways. When I was working on other seasons of the podcast, I'm pretty proud. There was very minimal editing. So I'm very comfortable speaking off the top of my head. I do have some show notes and things like that, but I'm excited to try out this format, see what happens. I also sort of have to be at peace with the fact that it might not be super highly attended out the gate, and it might just be me and one or two others as we get started. But again, in the spirit of practicing what I preach, we have to start somewhere and see where we can go from there, what we can learn. And again, it's a great way to build confidence. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me in case you are finding me and this video Whether you're live or listening to it later, if this is your first time with me, I want to tell you just briefly about myself. My name is Katie Tombaugh. I'm the founder of Wellness Collective. This is a small business, women-owned business that I started 17 years ago. It was actually my second business. And this business model was superior to the first business model, and here we are. I love being an entrepreneur. It is not the easiest choice. But it's made me gritty. I am proud that I've persevered through multiple recessions and a lot of setbacks. I have learned more in small business than I ever did or would have or could have in 4 years of college. I think about going back for advanced degrees all the time, and I think, this is my college. This is my university. I have a PhD in running a business at this point. And so what do I do? Wellness Collective works primarily with employers to support very important initiatives like health, fitness, safety, and well-being directly within the workday. How did I come to do this? Well, I did have a health and fitness background, and I was actually recruited into workplace wellness. And at the time, 20 years ago, pretty new industry, pretty progressive. I would say workplace wellness was initially a thing because employers really wanted to contain healthcare costs. And yes, that's super valuable. At the time, we were really focused on things like exercise, nutrition, healthy habits, kind of the basics, helping people to know their numbers. But fast forward to now, and workplace wellness is far more integrative and inclusive and comprehensive. And that's really what I like talking about on this podcast. So in my business, I, again, have primarily workplace clients. I do work with individuals one-on-one. So if you ever hear me and really connect with me and you want to work together, we will absolutely find a way. But I primarily am hired by employers. And so they get to a point where they realize, ideally because it's the right thing to do, that they want to invest time, energy, resources into their employees, right? To develop them personally, professionally, but specifically with things like health and well-being. That's where I step in. Oftentimes it's human resources that are managing this workplace wellness initiative, and they really don't maybe know or have the bandwidth to get things off the ground and manage the day-to-day to it. And that's, again, where I step in. So I love what I do. I have a small team. So Wellness Collective is a team of about 15 health and wellness specialists, trainers, coaches. We do have an extended team of mental health professionals, and we step into the workday in a variety of ways to support people, again, immediately within their workday. So the mantra, I guess, of my business is that self-care doesn't begin when the workday ends. We have an opportunity all day long to take care of ourselves, and we have a massive opportunity to transform workplace culture, to transform the experience of the workday through some of these health and wellness practices and principles. So that is really what I focus on in my day-to-day. I have a Bachelor of Science in Human Ecology. Nobody knows what that is. Don't worry about it. I tell people I basically have a degree in people. Human Ecology was the school. It's now actually at Ohio State, the Ohio State University. It is the College of Human Ecology, and actually, I misspoke. It's the College of Education and Human Ecology is what it is now. I get to sit on an advisory board there now, which is awesome. But it's really the school that has a variety of sciences impacting people. So at the end of the day, I think I ended up in the right place, even though I had a few other careers I tried on ahead of this one. And so here we are. So then I pursued a number of different certifications, lots and lots of professional development. I'm basically a lifelong learner, and I have very specific things I'm interested in, which reveal themselves when you listen to my podcast. So I'll kind of stop there. And now I want to tell you, a little bit about the history of this podcast. So I am not just here to talk about the workplace and the workday. It's really my intention to have some ideas, learning, education, coaching for individuals and for groups, right? So I anticipate that my listener is someone who is working full time and they are determining how to support themselves while working full time, while potentially being a caregiver, while navigating different seasons of life. And when I say caregiver, it might be young dependents. From what I hear, adult children are a lot of work. So it could be that, it could be aging parents. So anyhow, I think my listener or the person I'm best supporting, they are working full time and they are really seeking, how do I better prioritize taking care of myself? How can I have this amazing workday? Again, how do I transform myself and my experience of the workday? So lots of coaching and encouragement and guidance for individuals. And then again, because of what I'm passionate about, you're going to hear me talking about things that workplaces and employers can do as well. So season one and season two, they were produced in studio. I worked with the very amazing Jinx Media. It's Ginx. And Gina specifically was my producer. We would meet in a perfectly equipped sound studio, headset, microphones, all the technology to really optimize the audio. And we would stop and start occasionally. I would say take 2, take 3, and we would re-record things. But sorry, I peeked at the chat and then I lost my train of thought. Good to see you, Barb. I started in studio and I had a great experience. I loved it. For a variety of reasons, I thought, is this sustainable? Going in and recording and then having it produced. And, it had all the things, intro, outro, and being professional. That's okay. I want people to be active in the chat. Being professionally produced was the right thing for me, I think, out the gate, because I've shared with you that I was a little nervous about being on video, about going live. And yeah, there are other ways to record and capture audio, but I wasn't sure what to do out the gate, right? So season one, I really did focus on the individual and individual well-being. And unfortunately, it was post-pandemic time. So there's a lot of reference to the pandemic, which I don't know in hindsight that I love. It made the content a little less evergreen. But then fast forward to season two. And so I started to dabble in some other ways. And so what I mean is I brought in some guests. I did expand the conversation from individual health and well-being to more group or organizational health and well-being, talking about some ways to really get people engaged. Engagement is always a hot topic. And so then I took a pretty long pause, and that's when I decided, okay, we're going to do season 3. Again, wasn't totally sure what it would look like. At that time, I have other people, colleagues, influencers, obviously out the yin yang, who are being incredibly successful on the YouTube platform. And I thought to myself, YouTube's not going anywhere. YouTube is not going anywhere. It is seemingly here to stay. And so with that, can't keep avoiding. And I want to hang out where other people are hanging out. And I do want to have more visibility. I want to have more impact. I want to have more reach. I want to have more engagement. It is very fun. So I do want you to be active in the chat if you are here with me live. It's very fun to look up and feel supported and see someone I know. So please be active in the chat. And I will train myself to peek at it when I can. So here we are, season 3. I said, let's get everything up and running in terms of a YouTube channel. So my team behind the scenes helped me to do that quite quickly. And here we are. I am working to grow the subscriber base. So one thing you can do that would really help me out is to click that subscribe button. Obviously, it's free in case you don't know. I am going to have to work out long-term how I get this content uploaded to things like Spotify, other audio streaming platforms, because that's what I did with seasons 1 and 2. So seasons 1 and 2, you will find on the other platforms. And we recently added them to YouTube. And I'm sort of doing the opposite with season 3. I'm starting with YouTube and I'll eventually get them up on the other platforms as well. So that seemed a little boring now that I've gotten through it all, but I wanted you to know the context of season 1, season 2, season 3. Where are we headed? I'm making an interesting creative choice this season that I'm going to use some of my blog content and inspiration and really expand upon it in this format of the podcast. Backstory, I love to write. I've discovered that I love to write. I could tell you more than you might care to know about that, but writing has become very special to me. I love to write. In college, linguistics and business writing came to be my two favorite classes. And so I very much enjoy the process of writing and blogging. And sometimes I write and I get to the other side and I'm like, man, I'm really proud of that. And I have written a manuscript, a book by the same name as this podcast, Health and Happiness at Work. And I am aspiring to get it published in 2025. I'm working on the second draft. I have to get through all the copy editing, line editing, land on my top publisher, which I think I know who that will be. So yes, I love to write. But when you write, it's not the same as having a conversation necessarily. There is conversational writing, but I don't maybe feel like at least when I blog, I don't expand on the topics as much as I could verbally. So here we are. So with that, I want to, I think, get us kicked off. Finally, here I am. How many minutes in? That's all right. 15 minutes in. I want to get into our topic today. So the topic of the blog was 7 ways to unpack and awaken purpose. When we look at health and well-being, there are many different domains and or drivers of health and well-being. And from my perspective and the models that I use, purpose is one of those key drivers or domains. That said, when purpose comes up conversationally in a health and wellness coaching environment, I see how people respond sometimes. Their eyes get big. I see a little bit of overwhelm set in. And it's as if their wheels are turning and they're considering, do I really want to talk about life purpose? It feels really big, really heavy to tackle, maybe opens up some other questions. And so it's interesting to me. It's maybe could be considered one of the most important things for us to consider. Why are we here? Why do we exist? Yet, hey, avoidance, like I'm going to avoid that big, heavy topic because I don't know where to start and it feels overwhelming. That could be someone's experience. So when I was thinking about monthly topics, I actually do that out the gate. I think about monthly topics for the entire calendar year. I did that this year. And so when and if you go to my blog at wellnesscollective.com, you will see very, very strong themes by month that get written about. But I thought, oh my gosh, I don't like to create content and it's a one and done. How do I take that and evolve it and make sure eyeballs are on it and people are hearing it and seeing it and that it gets the visibility I'm hoping for? So I really want to, again, take some of these blog topics and just really be able to expand upon them. So that's kind of my logic for where we are today. So let's talk about the purpose of definition. Let me reverse that. Take 2. The definition of purpose. I do have it here before me. So purpose is the reason something exists, is done, or created. I'll say that one more time. Let it wash right over you. Purpose is the reason something exists, is done, or is created. And again, I have had this experience where I take people actually through an assessment. And in that assessment, there's an opportunity to reflect, self-assess and reflect and discover, it's really discovery, which areas of life are feeling satisfying and which areas of life are feeling less so. So we look at things in terms of a satisfaction scale that runs 0 to 10. With 10 being I am extremely satisfied and 0 being I'm extremely dissatisfied. So it's not about importance. Importance is another powerful scale to use. How important is something to you? But when we're doing the self-assessment, it's how satisfied are you? So when I get to that question and I say, how satisfied are you with your life purpose and that awareness or clarity around your life purpose, this is where people can have that experience of, wow, I am unclear. I am unsure. I would like to be more connected to my sense of purpose. And yet that's really big and that's really overwhelming. And I don't know where to start. And I don't know if maybe I want to start there. So in the process of self-assessment, especially when you're working with a coach, you can choose to start somewhere else. nutrition might feel like a little a little more inviting than life purpose, but we do have to consider readiness. But here we are, people have this dissatisfaction or this area of their life they maybe want to work on, and it feels uncertain, right, about where to start when exploring that topic. And so here's the good news. Yes, you can always take a self-help approach and explore things in a more private way, right? Reading, writing. It's been my experience. Some people are very driven to do that for themselves, and some people just are not. And so that's where a coach can step in. I'm finding that people have a lot of questions about what health coaching is and is not. And when I say health, it also includes well-being. So I'm kind of just shortening it. So I find that people don't really know what to expect. So hopefully through this podcast, I can do some education as well about what health and wellness or well-being coaching, what it looks and feels like and how it's characterized. But essentially we support, we are the guide on the side. We help to co-create visions, aspirations, and a plan to get there. From my perspective, I think the thing we do as a coach that is the most powerful is we facilitate meaningful conversation and, again, sit with questions that are open-ended to consider what's possible. That will come up later on today. So there's a lot of discussion, a lot of space to reflect. Personally, I'm pretty amazed at how much insight and knowledge we all carry around with us. It's just been my experience that people oftentimes do not make space in their day, in their life, to allow it to come up and out. And maybe that's why I'm so passionate about writing, because for me, writing is a vehicle for that insight, that information, that guidance, intuition to come up and out. Interestingly, in our culture, myself included, we sometimes, again, take the path of least resistance. We get really good at staying busy and we avoid things that are difficult or uncomfortable or big or heavy, etc. And so that's when we find ourselves doing things like scrolling mindlessly on our phone or binge watching something or some other type of coping, right? Retail therapy, like I'm going to do this thing that feels fun and good in the moment, rather than sit with some of the stuff that's on my mind and on my heart and in my gut. And so when and if you're feeling that way, I think that's really where a coach can help you to create space in your day and in your life to sit with these powerful questions and say, okay, what would it look like to have greater satisfaction in any one of these areas or domains of my life? And purpose is one of those really, really big buckets, areas of opportunity, and that's where we're going today. So before I get us kicked off, I'm going to take a peek at the chat because obviously I'm new at this and I'm not multitasking super well. So in the chat, we did a little bit of a sound check. I have a colleague here who says, you're speaking my language, working a lot of hours and then taking care of a 25-year-old and a 75-year-old. And my approach to both is about the same time. I'm tired. Yeah. I that is another running joke that I have, is that America's tired. America is tired, literally and figuratively, and it is very, very difficult to take care of yourself and others simultaneously. Thank you. I see some feedback in the chat about reading my blog and my emails and enjoying them. You're a great writer. Thank you so much. Talk about starting somewhere and really not knowing what you're doing. I'm not a trained writer. I wrote a lot of content for a lot of years that didn't make a splash. And then I felt like I figured out my voice. I figured out what makes me me. I figured out a few things that really helped me to turn the corner. And now when I do send out what is honestly a mass email with thought leadership or blog or ideas, I get some really good feedback from my people, my clients, my colleagues. So feedback, that's a good reminder or nudge to me right now to say, hey, feedback. We joke, feedback is a gift. Feedback is a gift. Some feedback is a little harder to process, at least for me. But really, when you're in this type of format, it is so helpful to know what again, makes an impact. The ripple effect of what you're saying or writing, the types of topics that you would like to see explored. So any kind of feedback on writing or blog content or this podcast content, what you'd like to see go forward, all of that is, from my perspective, welcome and incredibly helpful. So what else did I want to mention? I wanted to mention a little bit more about how I create content, and then I'll get us into our 7 ways. And I kind of started to share this when I spoke about writing and how important it is to me. But in the creation of this content for today in particular, it was an awesome morning. I want to set the stage a little bit. I'm on what I call my favorite couch. My family knows, like, where's mom? On her favorite couch. Where's Katie? On her favorite couch. I have a favorite couch. I get on the favorite couch. Sometimes it's coffee. Sometimes it's water. Sometimes it's wine. And that's where I like to create. And creating can look a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's free writing. Sometimes it is guided. Like I have some prompt that I'm sitting with. I have some type of inspiration I'm sitting with. And so I knew I had my topic of purpose. I put pen to paper, and with blogging, I didn't always do this. I now create an outline. And so when I created this particular outline and what I'm going to share with you today, I dare to say it was channeled, but it was as if it just came up and out. It so naturally came up and out and onto paper. And it was awesome. I wish an experience like that for everyone. And so creating can look a lot of different ways. Yes, some of us have a platform like this where we can create and share and engage, but creating looks different for everybody. Some people create things with their hands. Some people create impact in their work, whatever it is they do professionally or in leisure time. I believe we are all creators. That's something I feel pretty strongly about, and we can talk about that in another episode. But anyways, I felt like, oh my gosh, here I am writing about purpose. I feel like I'm in my purpose as I'm doing this because it was so, dare I say, effortless. It felt really good. So I just wanted to share that because it's nice to share things that feel good. Okay. So as I was developing the content, as it's, coming out, literally coming out of the pen, I looked at the word purpose and I thought, I'm going to use each letter of the word. And this is like, Katie, are you in 3rd grade and writing a poem? Because we used to do this in school, right? Like you would put fall and you would write it vertically, and you'd write a line of a poem that started with F and then A and then L and then L. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, Katie, this is a little elementary that you're doing this like writing convention or approach. But I thought, no, I'm being inspired to do this. I'm going to do it this way. And so that's literally how I chose to coach this topic, is with each letter of the word purpose. And I couldn't remember what that type of poetry was called. So I'm like, hey, Google, ask all the things. I have to be careful I don't wake up my phone. And so in case you need a reminder, it's called acrostic writing or poetry. And I know one of my friends who's here listening is a writer. So that's probably already in your wheelhouse or your vocab. But it's called acrostic when you take an existing word, and you do something with each letter of it. So I'm going to walk you through that. Fun fact, something is an acronym when it spells a word that is not an actual word. Interesting. Like in nutrition, there's something, it's an acronym called FODMAP in nutrition. And FODMAP is not a real word, but it stands for real words. So an acronym is essentially a made up word, whereas acrostic is a real word. Fun fact. Oh, yay. Rachel is telling me, I'm not sure I ever heard that term. Well, let's make it a goal that on every podcast, we're going to have a linguistics moment because it brings me joy, and maybe it'll bring you joy too. I just friggin' love words. Love them. Okay. We're going to look at purpose in 7 ways. I'm having no problem filling this time. And hopefully I'm not boring. So give me feedback on that. So the first letter of purpose, P, passion. I've already used the word passion. My encouragement, my coaching would be look at the things that you are so clearly passionate about. From my perspective, purpose and passion are synonymous. When you are passionate about something, it is such a strong emotion. And I speak about this, actually, I have a keynote on this. When you are passionate about something, it trumps motivation 10 out of 10 times. Motivation is a drive to do something. Passion is a desire. It's like, I have no choice. Like, this feeling is so strong, I have no choice but to do this. So that is my encouragement, is make a list of all the things you're passionate about. And so, okay, so then that begs the new question, which sometimes people will say to me, well, Katie, I don't know what I'm passionate about. Okay, I've got coaching for that. You might not know what you're passionate about, but I would encourage you to sit with the question, what historically have I been passionate about? I don't care if it was hula hooping when you were 5 years old. That tells me you like to play. You liked to move your body, right? So where do we go with that? There are often times, this is a fascinating exercise. There are often times when we look retroactively, when we look back and when we say, what did 5-year-old Katie like to do, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, and so on and so forth. If you look at different ages, different seasons of life, things that have, again, I'm very animated. I'm very animated today. Lots of body language. So I guess it's good I'm on video. I'm doing this because it's like, what is in your gut? Like, what lights a fire in your gut? So I say sometimes it manifests in the gut, sometimes in the heart, sometimes in the head. But there is this deep knowing of like, this is really interesting to me, or this is calling me, or this is something that is so meaningful to me. There are a couple of things philanthropically that for me are just like non-negotiable. I want to make a difference because those things are on my mind and on my heart, and they are the biggest opportunities to make a difference on this planet. Some of you who are here or listening later on, you know, I'm passionate about dance. I think if you ask anybody I went to high school with, you know, what do you think Katie will be doing when she's 95? Pretty sure they're going to say dance. You know, was I the best dancer on the planet? I was okay. I think I'm still okay. That feels nice and good. But I'm passionate about it. And that's the kind of thing, like, you wish you could bottle it and buy it, you know, and that type of thing. So passion is huge. Passion is desire. Passion is non-negotiable. Passion doesn't fade. That's the other thing. Motivation waxes and wanes. And so athletes in particular, you show up, you do the hard work, even when you don't feel like it, because that is the expectation. You get up and go and you get her done, even if the drive is not there. With desire, with passion, with things that you feel called to do, with things that are meaningful to you, it is just inherent. And so that is low hanging fruit, my friends. And so if you're unsure what you're passionate about, that's a different question, right? But passions, if you know what they are, those are areas to explore when connecting with sense of purpose. So continuing to unpack purpose, the next letter is U. I chose uniqueness as the word for unpacking purpose. Uniqueness, I wish people realized, and maybe some people do, just how unique each of us are. I'm going to goof up this stat, but I'm really passionate and interested in strengths and skills, character virtues, these types of things. There are assessments you can take. And I'm guessing Barb, who's with us, knows quite a bit about this, but it reveals essentially what makes you you. And I'm totally going to muck up the stat because I did not research it before this to refresh myself. But the possibility, the probability, the likelihood that you and someone else have the top 5 strengths in the exact same order is slim to none. I don't think people realize this. There, again, are character virtues. There are strengths in terms of skills and attributes, personality characteristics. We are all insanely unique. And I think, I'm going to get like a little emo. I think as children, even if we were really, if we were really encouraged to have this realization, to consider what makes us unique, to lean into those specifics that make us different, it'd be a very different planet. And I do think we're getting to a place in our culture where that is happening, where we're talking about being authentic. But I wanted to specifically talk about being unique, both personally and professionally. Like, this is something we can leverage at work. We all have different things that we're really, really good at, or what we're best at, I would dare to say. And I think when you step into what you're best at, and you're running everything through that lens, you are naturally going to align with a purpose-driven life, because you sit back and look at situations and say, I was made for this. Like, I am so good at this, or I am so good at that. And let me tell you, I don't think most of America is sitting back and saying, what am I really good at? I think, unfortunately, many of us, and again, I've had to do more self-help than anyone on the planet. So many of us are operating from a place of deficit-based thinking, limiting beliefs. My bucket is so empty. I'm not good enough. I've had bottomless therapy to get over perfectionism. So listen, I've had to work on these things a hell of a lot. And where I'm landing now, it is so badass. Dare I say that? Yeah, I like to swear on my podcast. Some people don't. I kind of do. It is so badass how interesting and how different we each are. So I think there is massive opportunity when you are considering, what is my purpose? Think about what you were made for. What makes you you? What makes you unique? How do you take that and double down with that insight and information? Because that is the secret sauce, essentially. And so again, there is just so much we can even learn about another person when we sit down and take the time to ask. I say this all the time when I go to, I don't know, social events and people are making small talk. I'm amazed at what some of the small talk looks like. I'm so tired of talking about the weather. I'm so tired of talking about certain topics. And to me, it's small talk. It's not big talk. And you've maybe heard this on another podcast, but well, you'd have to listen to mine, I guess, to know this, but I do not like small talk. I like big talk. I like to ask powerful questions. I like to know things about people. I'm fascinated by people. And I think if we stay that way and really ask interesting, powerful questions to one another, we will only have a greater appreciation for how unique everyone on this planet is. And again, I think that uniqueness can really, really drive a connection with purpose. Unpacking purpose further, the R I am using to reflect on the power of relationships. Again, I'm a little biased. I'm a people person. I'm a self-proclaimed extrovert. I think people are fascinating. I've already shared that. But I think when we are considering our purpose, when we are living a purpose-driven life, we naturally find and discover really amazing and meaningful relationships. And so I think this can look a few different ways. I think it's like a chicken and egg thing. I think you can focus on building relationships, putting yourself out there, checking out different groups, checking out different missions, checking out different hobbies, anything that's interesting to you. And I think you can meet people and build these friendships and build these relationships. And I think when you start hanging out with some people who maybe are like-minded, and you're doing things that are fun and meaningful, you might find your purpose. And I think conversely, when you are clear on things that are meaningful to you and you're doing purpose-driven work, like for me, volunteering in certain ways, I then meet people and the relationships are like magic. So I think that's been my experience, is I get myself involved in something, and maybe I don't know that it's purpose-driven at the time, but it has such a ripple effect on my life because of the people I meet and again, what unfolds next because of that relationship. So I think relationships are an incredible gift. And I think prioritizing relationship building can either support your purpose or lead you to your purpose. So that's what I chose next for this unpacking of purpose. If we continue going, gosh, I was doing this writing and I get to purpose. There's a second P. So I'm like, what's coming up for me? Possibility. So possibility is the next P in the word purpose. And so I think to really align and find and discover your purpose, you absolutely have to be willing to try new things. And you have to reframe things that maybe look unfun or maybe look like a hassle or a burden and be open to the learning, right? There might be something that's given to you at work and you take on the assignment and maybe you don't have the best attitude about it. Like, I can't believe I have to own this. I don't really want to do this. But you get to maybe the other side of it and you nail it and it was meaningful and successful and your confidence is up and it feels really good. And you think, oh my gosh, I was made for this. We can reframe a situation, and what looks like, again, an unappealing opportunity can really be something transformational for our lives. So I think always I use the phrase standing in the place of possibility and standing in the place of positivity will absolutely open new doors. And when you have many opportunities before you, that's a wonderful condition to find yourself in, a wonderful situation. And so, again, that involves being willing to try something new. That involves potentially getting uncomfortable. You might do something for the first time. You're a new beginner, but you might discover that it would change your life to lean in to this type of opportunity more. If I think, I like to try to give you, real life examples. And so I think back to when I was a young adult and I wanted to perform. I didn't want to teach, thinking about my dance career. And so I found myself teaching and I just kept shaking my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm teaching. I'm not performing. Oh, that wasn't the goal. But fast forward to 45-year-old Katie. Well, I'm 44, I guess. And if you said, Katie, what's your purpose on this planet? One of the answers or responses I would give you relates to teaching. I am here to teach. I did not want to teach out the gate. I thought it was a less than function than performing. I actually was kind of sad about it out the gate, but fast forward to now, and I think, believe, feel that I'm a very strong teacher. And I think I am on this planet to teach. I teach a variety of formats and topics in a variety of ways. And it is absolutely in my purpose to continue teaching the rest of my life. So it was not my first choice. It was maybe my last choice. I don't know. It definitely wasn't the first choice. Teaching found me. I keep finding these opportunities to teach. And so it's amazing. It's amazing what you can learn and find, and how through the process of doing something that maybe wasn't your first choice, an opportunity reveals itself. So as I'm speaking, I'm finding that I naturally went from standing in the place of possibility to talking about opportunity, which is the O in purpose. So that's what happens when you go live. I went a little bit rogue. So I want to rewind a little bit. And so essentially I'm going to talk about possibility and opportunity together. So to further expound on that, possibility to me as well is, yes, getting out of your own way, but it also involves daydreaming a little bit. It involves thinking really big. Maybe you've heard the term BHAG. It stands for big, hairy, audacious goal. It's kind of fascinating. Sometimes when you talk to people about their goals, there's a lot of hesitation, and I naturally just did it. There's a lot of hesitation because we are coached, smart goals. Yeah, it has to be realistic and attainable. And yes, of course, that feels good to actually achieve said goal, builds confidence. So we do want small, realistic, achievable types of goals. Yet we need to daydream. We need to think really big. We need to think about best case scenario. We need to think about what could go right. We need to think about, if there were no limits and I had 3 wishes, what would I want for myself? And so this is something that I've really been exposed to in my recent training with appreciative inquiry. And appreciative inquiry is maybe my newest favorite thing, because appreciative inquiry takes those limiting beliefs and stomps on them. And it really encourages you to think about what could go well, what could go right, what's gone well and right for you in the past. But then again, when we take off the limits and when we don't worry about the how, so when we are standing in the place of possibility, we don't worry about the how, the logistics, the steps of oh my gosh, is that feasible? Is that realistic? Could I ever possibly humanly do that in this lifetime? Don't worry about the how. The how we sort out later with a plan. But those really, really big, lofty ideas and possibilities, those can really create a lot of hope. Hope is transformational for physical and mental health. So it's amazing for this casting of hope, but it also gets people excited, right? Yes, we need to be realistic in some scenarios, but we also need to think really, really big. And so when we're looking at purpose, my encouragement is to think really big, consider all possibilities. Nothing's off the table. Nothing's a hard no. I mean, maybe there are some things that are, would be difficult to execute on, of course. But we need to consider all possibilities. We need to be willing to be a beginner at something. And we need to be able to kind of get outside our comfort zone because of the learning and the discovery of purpose that might come with that. So then again, I kind of already naturally segued into opportunity. And so everything on the planet, in theory, is an opportunity because we can learn something from everything. So there are very difficult things that happen in different seasons of life. I wanted to think of some real life examples to share with you today. And so, gosh, I mean, we've all been through things, but I went through something, gosh, how many years ago was it now? I don't know. It's been double digits of years. It's probably been 11 years or so, like a major healthcare crisis in our family, major healthcare adversity. Major healthcare adversity. It was one of the hardest things I've ever been through in my life. But I learned so much about myself, about others, about healthcare. I mean, I think I went through certain situations and certain adversity because there is learning and there are, silver lining is so cliche to say, but we go through these lived experiences and there's always something we can carry forward to support the growth of our own self or maybe the impact we have on others. And so because I've been through that situation, I do believe that I can support people in different ways in my line of work than had I not been through that kind of adversity. That's just, I don't know, a real life example I wanted to share. So I'm having no problem talking to myself. I know I've got a couple of people here with me, so I'm going to pick up the pace, but unpacking purpose, we're on to S. The S, I chose the word spirit. So spirit is an interesting word, especially in my line of work and especially going into the workplace and the workday and just acknowledging that everyone has a different relationship with spirit, with spirituality, with higher self, with this idea of something greater than themselves, a higher spirit. So how do we talk about spirit? How do I talk about spirit specifically in the workday? I describe spirit as that which animates us. I'll say it one more time. I describe spirit as that which animates us, right? It's that expression. I talk about it, spirit can affect our mood. We can use the word spirit to describe mood or morale, especially in groups, team spirit, that type of thing. But when when we are living in our purpose, when we are working for someone who chooses, I want my work to be purpose driven. When we are in those moments, it's like a highlight reel for your spirit. You will be animated in such a way that is authentic. You will shine. Again, all of those strengths that we've talked about, they will absolutely shine through. So I think spirit is interesting in a couple of ways, because I think our spirit expresses itself in really special ways when we are purpose driven and again living and aligning with purpose. I think our spirit also feels a sense of satisfaction, again that deep sense of satisfaction. That will be there, and maybe that's relatable. Like maybe you've been either in your work or in your hobbies, maybe you have ever felt like something's missing. Something's missing. This isn't checking the box for me. This isn't doing it for me. This doesn't feel meaningful. It doesn't feel important. But when you are doing something in your day and in your life that aligns with purpose, that makes sense for you, that says, yes, this adds value to my life. This feels like, again, I'm made for this. Your spirit will feel a deep sense of satisfaction, I believe, and you will naturally be successful. And I think that is very, trying to find the right words. I think that's very easy to witness. Like you might even see someone in their glory doing what they were meant to do, what they were made to do, what they feel called to do. And you can like witness it, right? You can see it embodied by this person. So we can kind of tune into those moments where spirit feels satisfied and spirit gets to be authentically shining, right? Next, I want to, I'm looking at my power. I'm like, I might need to plug in my power cord here. That could be a good learning from my first ever live podcast on YouTube. E, we're at the end of purpose. E is energy. And this really ties to this, some of the ideas I was speaking about with spirit, is that I think when we are in alignment with our purpose, when we are considering, is this my purpose? The event, the activity, the situation, the task, it will be innately energizing. So I spoke about passion and that desire, that want. So that's more about want. What I'm talking about right now is like pep in your step. So when you're thinking, I was made for this, this again is where I want to spend my time, my energy, my resources. This feels like, again, I am really making a difference. When you discover those moments, they will be so energizing. It produces this incredible high, I would describe. And so true life, I actually have two real life experiences, although I'm going to be like really authentic right now. And I'm going to plug in my power cord because I'm getting nervous. And so I'm going to do this awkward thing where I stop for a second. All right. I just don't want to have a technology fail out the gate. Okay. So I actually have two real life examples. When thinking about, does this put me in my place of purpose? Is it energizing? My two examples. Last year, I took a tour of one of the local nonprofits here called WARM. It stands for Westerville Area Resource Ministry. And we were there as a part of a program I was in called Leadership Westerville. And we spent the whole day at the nonprofit learning, seeing behind the scenes, meeting the staff, that type of thing. And I tell you what, I left that day after being in that facility with that nonprofit mission, and my bucket was so full. My spirit was happy, but I was energized. And I thought, everybody on the planet needs to know about this. And I want to hang out here more. Fast forward to last week, I was invited to pitch for a nonprofit that I'm involved in called Byron Saunders Foundation. I was invited to this pitch night. Their was an opportunity to win $11,000 to be donated to your organization of choice. Mine was Byron Saunders. Byron Saunders specifically was invited. Let me clarify. So Byron Saunders was invited. I was the representative. I was pitching on behalf of Byron Saunders. And then those in attendance got to vote and determine who would win the $11,000. So that was last Wednesday, a week ago today. I made the pitch and Byron Saunders won. I did not want to sleep that night. I was on such a high. I was so energized. I'm not sharing this to pat my own back, although I am super proud, but I want to talk about the energizing benefit of doing meaningful work and thinking about, again, reflectively, what is it in my day in life that energizes the heck out of me? Because when you're searching for your purpose, thank you. When you're searching for your purpose, you want to look at those energizing moments. Again, that highlight reel of like, when in life have I been my most energized? When in my life have I been my most satisfied? When in my life has my spirit been happy? When in my life have I felt like I made a difference, where I was made for this? It's uniquely me. I'm passionate about it. Here I am, like naturally doing a recap of all the things I spoke about today. But then fast forward to, just kind of wrap up my real life story. I was talking to my husband, and he, periodically, husband says, do you need to slow down? Do you need to simplify? I appreciate he's wanting to take care of me. But I said to him, honey, I know that one day I am going to do nonprofit work full time. Eventually, someday, I don't want to sell anytime soon. Someday I will sell the business down the road, and move on to whatever's next for me. And I, in my heart, in my gut, in my brain, all the places, I know that I have a massive opportunity in nonprofit work. And I think it could look infinite different ways. And I think all of the people I've met, all of the opportunities I've had, again, kind of highlighting some of the things I spoke about today, have revealed this for me. It has made it crystal clear that would be an amazing path for me to take and could be in alignment with my purpose in this lifetime. I think there's many paths for me and many paths for all of us. But knowing what those options are feels really damn good. So anyways, I get incredibly energized by some of the philanthropic pursuits. And so my encouragement is, like, what is that for you? What is that for you? For some people, it's working with certain populations. Certain populations really feel like the right fit. Certain missions feel like the right fit. Certain skills feel like the right fit. So I am almost at the hour mark. I can't believe I did it. I do want to be more engaged with the chat, especially as I start to do this more consistently. So that's kind of a nice transition that I'm determining. I historically have done one podcast a month. My gut tells me that when things really build, grow, develop, they're maybe more consistent than that. So I don't know that once a month is enough, but I do want to know that I have an audience. I want to have some feedback. I want to hear from you all. So we can determine, is this a weekly thing? Is this a monthly thing? How does this look? I don't know. We get to decide. So with that, thank you for listening about passion, uniqueness, relationships, possibility, opportunity, spirit, and energy, and how those all can be contributing factors to tapping into purpose, discovering your purpose, clarifying your purpose, living your purpose, all the things. So with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. I want to thank you for those that were active in the chat. And that gives me energy. In case you can't tell, it really does give me energy. And I'll get better at kind of managing the chat and opening things up to the chat and going back and forth, toggling between it. So thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the congratulations on the fundraising. And thank you for being here. I'm feeling, how am I feeling? I think I'm feeling proud that I did this because, again, video, especially by myself, is a little interesting. But I'm excited to come back and do it again. So thank you for being here. And again, feedback welcome. Have a great week, everybody.